I was sitting in my truck at midnight watching my wife of 8 years flirt with another man in a hotel bar, wearing the dress she wore on our anniversary, touching his arm like she owned him. 4 hours later, she was unconscious in a hospital bed, and he was sitting beside her like he had every right to be there. The accident that nearly killed peace exposed secrets that had been rotting our marriage for months. What I did with that information will either make you call me a hero or a villain. Viewers, if you discovered your spouse's affair, would you expose them publicly or handle it privately? Drop your answer below. Before this story begins, subscribe. You'll never look at relationships the same way again. My name is Bruno Bones. I'm a 34-year-old construction project manager here in Charlotte, North Carolina. For the past 8 years I've been married to Peace, my college sweetheart, my best friend, or at least that's what I thought she was. We met at UNC Chapel Hill during a psychology lecture I crashed to impress a girl. Ironically, that girl wasn't Peace. She was sitting 2 rows behind me, and after class she called me out for pretending to understand Freudian theory. We laughed about it over coffee, and I knew right then she was different. Smart. Real. Grounded. We built a life together. A modest 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. 2 cars. No kids yet. Peace always said she wanted to focus on her career first. She works in HR at Meridian Financial, a mid-sized investment firm downtown. Worked her way up from an intern to senior HR coordinator. I was proud of her. Trusted her completely. But 2 nights ago, everything I believed about my marriage shattered. And it all started with one text message and one terrible, convenient accident. I remember the rain that night, how it hammered against my windshield as I drove home from Concord, exhausted from fixing another contractor's mistake. I remember thinking about Peace, wondering if she'd ordered dinner or if we'd just collapsed together on the couch. I remember feeling safe in my life, secure in my marriage. That security died at a red light when my phone buzzed and I read her message. Sometimes I think back to that moment and wonder if I could have ignored it, pretended everything was fine. But deep down I knew. The second I saw those words on my screen, something inside me recognized the lie. I tried to shake it off. Made myself a sandwich, turned on SportsCenter, but my brain wouldn't shut up. Why would HR work require an overnight stay? Why couldn't she bring the files home? And why Gregory, a guy who'd been transferred 8 months ago? The television flickered blue light across our living room, the same room where Peace and I had slow danced last Christmas, where she told me she wanted to grow old with me. That memory felt like acid now. At 11:15 p.m. I did something I'd never done before. I opened our shared phone plan account and checked Peace's call log. A year ago, my brother Marcus got divorced after discovering his wife's affair through phone records. He'd warned me then. Bruno, trust is good, but verification is survival. I'd brushed him off, called him paranoid, told him marriage couldn't function without faith. Now I was doing exactly what he did, exactly what I judged him for. The log loaded. My stomach dropped. Peace had called Gregory 17 times in the past 3 weeks. Calls ranging from 12 minutes to 47 minutes. Some during her lunch breaks. Some late at night, times she told me she was catching up on emails in the bedroom. I felt my hands go cold. My chest tightened. I scrolled further back. The call started 4 months ago. Brief at first. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. Then they grew longer, more frequent, late into the night. I texted her again. Which Hilton? No response. I waited 10 minutes. Nothing. My phone sat silent on the coffee table, mocking me with its blank screen. Then I grabbed my keys, left my half-eaten sandwich on the counter, and headed for the door. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. I told myself I was being crazy. That I'd show up, she'd be in the business center buried in paperwork, and I'd feel like an idiot. But I had to know. I parked across the street at 12:30 a.m. The hotel lobby glowed warm through the glass doors. I waited. Watched. My hands drummed the steering wheel. Rain streaked down my windows, blurring the neon lights into watercolor smears. At 12:52 a.m. I saw them. Peace walked out of the elevator in the lobby, laughing. Hair down. She was wearing that black dress. The one she'd worn on our anniversary last year. The one she said made her feel confident. Next to her was Gregory. Tall, mid-40s, tailored suit even at midnight. His hand rested on the small of her back. They walked to the hotel bar. Sat close, too close. He ordered drinks. She leaned in, touched his arm. I remembered our anniversary, how she'd worn that dress for me, how we danced in our living room to old Motown records. She told me that night she felt lucky to have me, that some women never find their person. I kissed her forehead and believed every word. Peace and I hadn't been intimate in 6 weeks. She'd blamed stress from work, said she was exhausted. I'd been patient, understanding. Now I understood differently. I sat there frozen, watching my wife flirt with another man like I didn't exist. I should have walked in, confronted them. But something stopped me. A darker thought crept in. What if I let this play out? What if I gather evidence first? My brother Marcus had warned me a year ago after his divorce. Trust is good, Bruno, but verification is survival. I called him paranoid then. Now I was becoming him. I started recording on my phone. I must have dozed off after driving home at 2 a.m., brain fried from what I'd witnessed. The phone's vibration jolted me awake. I answered groggy. Hello. Is this Bruno Bones? A woman's voice. Professional. Strained. Yeah, who's this? This is Nurse Patterson from CMC, Maine. Your wife, Peace Bones, was brought in an hour ago. She's been in a car accident. My blood went ice cold. What? Is she okay? She's stable but unconscious. You should come immediately. I was out the door in 30 seconds. Peace's father died in a car crash when she was 16. She'd always been a cautious driver because of it, never sped, never texted while driving. She'd made me promise on our wedding day that I'd always wear my seatbelt, always drive defensively because she couldn't lose someone else that way. The idea of her in an accident felt surreal, impossible. But as I sped toward the hospital, another thought poisoned my panic. Where was she driving from at 4 a.m.? The Hilton was downtown. Our house was southwest. The hospital, CMC, Maine, was northeast. She was driving in the opposite direction of home. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my mind racing through possibilities I didn't want to consider. Had she stayed with Gregory longer than I'd seen? Had they gotten a room? Was she leaving him when she crashed? The questions burned like acid. I remembered our wedding vows. In sickness and in health. For better or worse. I'd meant every word. Had she? The hospital loomed ahead, all lit windows and emergency lights cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. I parked crooked, ran inside, my heart hammering against my ribs with fear and fury competing for dominance. I pushed open the door. Peace was unconscious, left arm in a cast, bruises on her face. My heart cracked despite everything. Machines beeped steadily, monitoring her vitals. The antiseptic smell burned my nostrils. But then I saw him. Gregory. Sitting in the chair beside her bed. His tie loosened, eyes red. He looked up at me startled. You must be Bruno. Get out, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. Listen, I get. He stood slowly, hands raised like I was a wild animal. She called me after the accident. I was the last person she spoke to before. Before what? I stepped closer. Before she lied to me about where she was? Before she crashed driving away from whatever the hell you two were doing? He hesitated, then said something that made my stomach churn. She was upset. We'd had an argument. About you, actually. She wanted to end things, said she felt guilty. I told her it was too late for guilt. My fists clenched. How long? 4 months. 4 months. I thought about the past 4 months. Her late nights. Her distance. The way she'd flinched when I'd tried to hold her hand 3 weeks ago at dinner. The way she'd stopped saying I love you first. All of it suddenly made terrible sense. A nurse entered, asked Gregory to leave. He did, but not before whispering, she does love you, man. That's the problem. I wanted to strangle him. Instead, I collapsed into the chair he'd vacated, still warm from his body, and stared at my wife's sleeping face, wondering who she really was. She woke up 6 hours later. Her eyes found mine. Bruno. Her voice cracked. I didn't move. Didn't smile. Just watched her. What happened? She whispered. You tell me. She blinked, tears forming. I was at the Hilton. With Gregory. We were talking. I left around 3 a.m. I was driving home and a truck ran a red light. I swerved, hit a pole. Talking, I repeated. For 4 months you've been talking. Her face collapsed. Who told you? Does it matter? Peace started crying real ugly sobs that shook her whole body. She told me Gregory had pursued her relentlessly after his transfer. Started with emails. Then calls. Then visits during business trips. She claimed she'd resisted at first, but he'd told her things about me. That I was too comfortable, that I didn't challenge her anymore. That she deserved someone who matched her ambition. I remembered last Christmas when she'd mentioned wanting to apply for a director position. I'd supported her, encouraged her, helped her practice her presentation. Was that not enough? Was supporting her dreams somehow failing her? She said she'd fallen for his words. Let him take her to dinners. Bought the lie that she was missing out. But I never slept with him, she swore. Last night was the first time I almost did. But I couldn't. I left. That's why I crashed. I was crying, not paying attention. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But I'd seen her in that dress. Seen her touch his arm. Heard him say 4 months. I need time, I said. And I walked out. I went home and did something invasive. Something I swore I'd never do. Peace and I shared a cloud account for photos. I'd never snooped. But now I logged in and accessed her message backups. What I found destroyed me. Hundreds of texts between her and Gregory. Flirtations. Promises. Photos of her in lingerie I'd never seen. Him shirtless in hotel rooms. One message stood out. Gregory wrote, "Leave him. You know you're not happy." Peace responded, "I can't just abandon Bruno. He's been good to me." Gregory replied, "Good isn't enough. You deserve great. Good isn't enough." Those words echoed in my skull. I'd been good to her. Faithful. Supportive. Present. Apparently that made me mediocre. There was a video. Dated 3 weeks ago. 32 seconds. Peace and Gregory kissing in a parking garage. His hands in her hair. Her hands pulling him closer. She'd lied. She'd absolutely lied. I watched that video 7 times, each viewing carving deeper into my chest. I remembered 3 weeks ago. She'd come home late, said she'd been at a team dinner. She'd kissed my cheek, told me she was exhausted, gone straight to bed. She'd showered first. I'd thought nothing of it then. Now I knew she was washing him off her skin. I downloaded everything. Backed it up to 3 different drives. Then I called a divorce attorney my brother had recommended. The lawyer's voicemail said office hours started at 9 a.m. It was 6:45. I sat in my home office, surrounded by photos of our life together, and waited for the sun to rise so I could start destroying everything we'd built. Marcus didn't say I told you so. He just listened. We met at a diner on Providence Road, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like burnt regret. Then he said, "You want to hurt her or protect yourself?" Both. He slid a folder over. "Here's what you do. Don't confront her yet. Let her think you're considering reconciliation. Meantime, I've got a buddy who's a PI, he'll document everything. Gregory's married, by the way. Wife and 2 kids in Atlanta." That stopped me cold. He's married? Yep. And his wife has no idea. I thought about Gregory sitting beside Peace's hospital bed like he had any right to be there. Thought about him whispering to me about love and problems. The man was a predator. He'd targeted my wife, seduced her with lies and promises, all while he had a family waiting for him 300 miles away. A plan formed. Dark. Calculated. I'd expose them both, but strategically. Peace would lose me. Gregory would lose everything. "I'll need his wife's contact," I said. Marcus grinned. "Already got it. Her name's Jennifer. She's a pediatric nurse. Good woman by all accounts. Doesn't deserve this." He paused. "Neither do you, brother." We spent 2 hours mapping it out. The PI would get more evidence. I'd play the wounded husband considering forgiveness. Then, when we had everything, I'd strike. Not out of anger, though God knows I had plenty. Out of justice. Marcus asked me once if I still loved Peace. I couldn't answer. Love doesn't just die. It rots. And I could feel it rotting inside me, turning into something bitter and unrecognizable. 2 weeks later, Peace came home. We'd barely spoken. She thought I was processing. I'd visited her twice more at the hospital, playing the concerned husband. It killed me. Every time she touched my hand, every time she said she was sorry, I wanted to scream. But I held it together. I parked in the driveway. Handed her the envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it." Inside were divorce papers. Printed texts. Screenshots. The video. Her face went white. "Bruno, please, I sent everything to Gregory's wife this morning," I said calmly. "She's filing for divorce too. And I forwarded your messages to Meridian's HR director. Turns out, interoffice affairs violate your company policy. Especially when one party is married." She started hyperventilating. "You destroyed my career, you destroyed our marriage." I cut her off. "I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth." Peace broke down completely, admitted Gregory had promised her a promotion if she kept him happy. That the affair had started as manipulation, but she'd convinced herself it was real affection. That she'd been trapped between guilt and ambition. "I loved you," she sobbed. "I still do." "No," I said. "You loved the safety I gave you. That's not the same thing." I got out of the car. Walked into our house, grabbed the suitcase I'd already packed, and left. She sat in the driveway crying for 40 minutes. I watched from my truck parked down the street. I wanted to feel victorious. I just felt hollow. That night I checked into a hotel. Not the Hilton. Anywhere but there. I lay in a bed that wasn't mine, in a room that smelled like industrial cleaner, and finally let myself break. 6 months later I'm rebuilding. Peace lost her job. Gregory's wife took him for everything in the divorce. He's back to entry-level somewhere in Texas, last I heard. Peace tried to reach out twice. I didn't respond. I signed the divorce papers without reading them. My lawyer handled everything. I sold the house. Couldn't stand to live with those ghosts. I moved into a smaller place near uptown, closer to work, closer to starting over. I'm not gonna lie, some days are harder than others. I loved her. Maybe part of me still does. But love without trust is just self-destruction. I've learned 3 things. 1. People will always show you who they are. Believe them. 2. Betrayal doesn't start with the affair. It starts with the small lies you ignore. 3. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reclaiming your power. I don't regret exposing them. I regret not seeing the signs sooner. Marcus keeps telling me I did the right thing. Some nights I believe him. Last week I got a message from an unknown number. Bruno, it's me. I'm pregnant. We need to talk. I stared at that message for an hour. Because the timeline doesn't add up, unless she's been lying about everything. The baby could be mine. Could be Gregory's. Could be someone else's entirely. Part of me wants to delete it, block her number, move on completely. But another part of me, the part that loved her for 8 years, the part that married her believing in forever, that part needs to know. So tomorrow I'm meeting her. One last time. Whatever happens next, whatever truth she's carrying, I'll face it. Because I've learned that running from the truth only lets it chase you harder. And I'm done running. If this shocked you, subscribe, like, comment and share, because the next story is worse.